Hi, this is Marcus, and in today's episode, we forgot to have a guest. Not really, but to celebrate our first 6 episodes, instead, we decided to talk about how our podcast has been so far. Our previous guests, challenges in production, behind the scenes, and a few inside jokes and stories. Let's get into it.
I found Parmesan cheese in my cupboard that was supposed to go into my fridge. That makes anybody feel better.
Cheese. Oh gosh, you brought the cheese into the conversation.
It was a legit thing. Recently, I've been a little scattered because I have been finding things in places that they should not be, and I am the only person that could have put them there. my 3-year-old's doing it too, but he's a lot lower than I am, so I can tell when he's a culprit. There are clear things that he could not be putting in odd places like I am.
I'd like to note before we get onto the run sheet, I say this just in case we haven't said it in any previous episodes, or this is the first episode that you, the listener, are hearing. A good bit of our episodes, we don't do like unscripted. Big shocker there. We actually kind of have bullet points here and there for how we want the flow to go, and then we try to stick to that as best as we can. It's more there for like inspiration if things get dry, but we don't have a run sheet this time. And by we don't have a run sheet this time, I mean none of our normal voices here have a run sheet this time. Only, and if you've listened to any of our other episodes, you probably know who this is. Only Kelly does. Yeah. Because Kelly's going to be interviewing us today. Would you like to say hi, Kelly?
Hi.
So Kelly's our pod mom.
I think pod mom is the absolute perfect name for Kelly.
Kelly does like
all of our organization, our calendar,
getting the snacks.
People who
I was
edit.
going to say getting our snacks. She brought her puppy.
Thank you. I'm really proud of you
You've
guys.
been doing like everything behind the scenes.
So are you ready for this? Okay. So episode 1 was titled Why We Started. And in that episode, you guys introduced yourselves to the world and shared the vision you had for this show. So Taryn, a lot of the feedback that we've gotten from the listeners is how much they love the way that you kind of break down the brain. You take everyday conversations and connect them to how the brain processes that information in this like really easy to understand way. And I thought maybe I could ask you, what inspires you to bring these concepts to the community? And why is it so important that we understand how our brains work?
Well, connection is what inspires me. And I mean, ultimately, it's that I just see so much unnecessary suffering. It's funny, we were talking about this before the episode started. Statistically, we can really predict with pretty good accuracy based on, early life, like who will end up sick and who will end up struggling and who will end up incarcerated. And that's really depressing, but it's also really hopeful because the thing about human behavior is if you can predict it, then you can intervene and you can change it. And so all that unnecessary suffering, I see the brain is the answer to it. And I really, truly believe that in general, most humans are pretty ignorant around how the brain works. And I don't mean that in a mean way. Like ignorance is just like, you don't know what you don't know, right?
And not just that, but it's also just not normalized information throughout our society. I mean, I'm sure Marcus could go on a rant about this, but if I'm correct, people didn't know that germs used to exist. And people were dying in hospitals because
Sticking
they were
their fingers in the wounds.
Oh my goodness, I have to wash my hands before I put my hands inside your stomach. Crazy idea. And then what do you know? They're getting sick and they're dying. Yeah. And people back then thought that they were crazy for like people who were bringing up the idea of germ theory. They were absolutely insane.
Microscopic creatures exist among
What are these
us?
animalcules?
There's things in the air, things in the everything that I can't see. No, if I can't see, it's not real. But Jesus is. God is.
You
but
know how
not
many
germs,
molecules
not germs.
were mentioned in the Bible?
Right.
None.
Right. But nowadays, germ theory is
very real, right?
Very real, very normalized, very observed, taught in schools. And no one's crazy for that.
Yep.
And this is, dare I say, not the exact same situation.
I think it kind of is, though.
It's a concept that isn't normalized. And maybe people aren't saying that we're crazy for it, but there are people saying that we're crazy for it, you know?
Yeah.
And you know how you can convince society to believe something new? You show them that it works with them. Because, doctors started believing in germs when they would get treatment from germ-believing people, and they wouldn't die. And so now with brain science, as we adopt that into our society, we can see those results of...
Yeah. And that's kind of the other layer of inspiration is just literally how it's changed my own life and how it continues to change my life every day in the way that I work with people and the way that I interact with people. But yeah, you all are absolutely, I will die on the mountain where I believe to my core that it is to our own detriment that we don't understand this very low level stuff about our brains, because we keep building a society with the smart part of our brain that the lower parts of our brain just can't function in. And then we're all spinning out, feeling busy and overwhelmed and taxed and stressed all the time. And we want these dopamine hits because it makes us feel good, because kind of to some degree, not everybody and not all the time, but there are some things going on that are making us really, really miserable. And again, it's unnecessary, because if we just knew, the brain, processes from the bottom up. So maybe we should here's a good example I can give. And I understand why policies like this get put in place, but the county of Del Norte has a policy that their employees can't eat any of the food that's served at trainings. And that's a really kind of neurobiologically insulting policy, right? I mean, that means that people that provide a 4-hour training, the guests get up and the guests all eat, but the employees of the county providing that training literally can't sit and eat food with the people they're training. So that's a small example, but we have a lot of policies written like that really, really cause harm to the whole idea that we regulate, then relate, then reason, I don't think anybody's doing that on purpose. I know people aren't doing that on purpose. They're trying to protect us from the small amount of the population that will take that credit card and go buy a 7-meal, dinner, not meal dinner, but what's the word? 7
course.
Thank you. So anyway, in summary, what inspires me is how it's changed my own life and how I really believe that this can change the life of others in very significant ways. Can I tell you one quick thing that happened to me today? Luca goes, my little 3-year-old looks at me and he goes, "Mom, what do you do with you're frustrated and you're mad and you're sad?" And I was like, well, when I'm frustrated, I like to take deep breaths. And when I'm mad, I like when I'm sad, I like hugs. And when I'm mad, I like to move my body. What do you do with you're frustrated and you're sad and you're mad? And he goes, "I like to take deep breaths." Which, just so you all know, is not true. He does not take deep breaths when he's upset. I remind him and then he gets even more angry at me. But it's cool because I see this work already in this 3-year-old. What 3-year-old asks you what you do with your big emotions? Yeah. Hopefully a lot of them,
They will soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think next we should probably address the big block of cheese in the room,
Oh, yeah.
Chance.
I think so.
It's kind of been lingering around for how many episodes now?
Yeah. And I think listeners at home need to hear the story, because you're asking every guest that comes on the show what their favorite cheese is,
There's
right?
cheese in all of the photos.
There's hidden cheese.
Or not the photos. What are they called?
The cover art.
There's cheese in all of the cover arts. Go look at them. Go look at all of them. There's cheese somewhere. You will find it.
Well, I would like to apologize.
It's Marcus's fault. It actually
It's my
is kind of
fault.
his fault.
It's all my fault. So before we started recording episodes that we were going to upload and whatnot, we had a lot of, I guess, demo episodes, sort of stuff so that we could get used to talking and know how to communicate, right?
On our flow.
Yeah. And in those, I kept cracking jokes about cheese because Taryn would always bring us cheese to when we would record those. And it was really nice. It was cheddar cheese.
But I didn't bring you guys cheese. You came to Brain Talk and we had cheese there.
That's right. I got it wrong.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Well,
let me try again.
And then every time, but it's fine because you kept telling these guys that I would bring cheese and they were like, "Taryn, you've never brought us cheese. But then you had cheese. No, yeah, it was Brain Talk. You came to the first Brain Talk before all of you guys started coming.
You never brought cheese. And even as he's saying this, I'm like, maybe once or twice, but I don't remember cheese being the big thing, you know? But anyways, after that, Marcus, I don't know, he just would not stop talking about it, and it caught on with everybody else.
It was really funny, if you ask me.
And at that point, we had already been planning the, 6 demo episodes. We were already planning, still planning on actually publishing those. And so we're like, well, it's been a theme this far. We've kind of got to commit to it. And so we didn't even end up publishing those, but we still have to commit to it because it's kind of just the thing now.
It was because in those very first, official episodes, me and Kelly were writing the run sheets, and I was like, what if we snuck in some of the cheese in there? And Kelly was like, yeah. Well, I mean, we have a big sign on our little whiteboard. Don't forget the cheese.
I love.
It's actually a whole list that says "Don't forget ... and then the cheese, because on our run sheets we always write "Don't forget the cheese." So when you really think about it, it's a joke about the original thing that Marcus was talking about. I'm so sorry. I'm
Ole mole.
ole mole. I had no point with that. I apologize.
Okay, let's get serious.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Why so serious?
Because I can. Something that Resilient Donatal really wanted to implement with you guys is to create job skills and practical things that you can use, because eventually you're going to move past being podcast hosts. So we wanted to lean into some of the natural talents that you guys had. So Lee, your editing skills have made us sound so incredibly professional. I really appreciate you. Charlie, who's not with us today, is a very talented writer. From everything from our marketing to our monologues, Charlie's been so helpful. And Marcus, I feel like you're our little Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. Depending on what's going on that day, I can really depend on you for just about anything that the podcast is needing that day. And then Azel, you have been creating these incredible cover arts and characters inspired by all of our guests and our hosts. And I'm thinking that our listeners would probably really love to hear a little bit more about those characters and how you capture everybody's unique vibe in your drawings is astonishing.
Thank you. I mean, I loved the idea of designing characters, and I love drawing these little guys every single time, especially if I continue to figure out horrifying ways to draw Marcus.
Specifically my hands.
In all fairness, you started that way before.
Oh, no, okay. Azel was like, how do you want me to draw you? I was like, give me hyper-realistic hands. Have you ever seen Smiling Friends, The Boss? I want to look like that guy.
Well, he started out with a square with kind of a duck bill and then went from there.
Yeah.
I believe the drawing of yourself is actually still at Coastal Connections. I was staring at it while I was doing therapy today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's gained
still there.
braces.
I know what you're talking about. I saw that earlier. Yeah.
That's what I meant by you started it, because you would draw that thing
Yes, you drew
everywhere we went.
I would draw a really
including Coastal.
weird face.
a horrifyingly detailed version of yourself that I haven't even captured, honestly.
I don't think that we have ever clarified who is who in our cover arts. So
No.
could we go down the line and describe what our characters look like? And say your names too. Azel, you could start.
Well, I am that piece of paper clearly lined with pink and blue like the typical paper you write on, and with the curly hairs.
And what's your name, Azel?
What do you mean?
We have special names?
My name is Azel, and I am the blah, blah, blah. So that they can know who is you both ways.
Well, you said Azel go first.
Oh, never mind. You hate me.
I'm very confused. I didn't give them any names. They have already.
You're poop. Know that.
We just wanted you, before you started describing yours, to say, well, I'm Azel and my character is this. But
been used
we
to
had
doing it in
literally said,
circle.
Azel, you go first. And so, yeah. So everybody knows who your character is.
I'm Josette.
I would like
don't
to
like
mention.
you
What
right
do
now,
you do with
Taryn.
your frustrated, Lee?
I pretend that it isn't there.
You just push it down to see if it'll go away
Push
magically.
it down. It's just not there.
You ignore it.
It's not there.
Well, I
I'm
hear
not
you
angry.
Breathing
I am
heavy.
Marcus, and I am Poopy Joe.
I am Joanne Azalea Walker, but I go by Azel on this podcast. And my character is a piece of paper with a silly little jacket and a dress, because I did redraw them for this cover art specifically. And I'm going to keep drawing them with a dress and pearls, because I like that. Charlie's character is a little moth with a blue cloth. I had redesigned them to look more cuter, but they wanted them to look more creepy, so I gave them those super detailed, well, not super detailed, but eyes, horrifying eyes,
I love them.
and the fluffy little antennae.
What kind of moth are they?
A Luna moth.
I'm Marcus. My guy is Marcus. Believe it or not,
He has very big shoes.
I am short. Yeah, I'm the
He's the human person, pretty much.
with
Yeah.
very nubby arms.
I kind of look like Super Meat Boy from the old Newgrounds cartoons. Taryn, you know Super Meat Boy?
No, I just laughed at the name of it though because it's hilarious. I'm gonna look it up. I'm the anchor, and I cried when I found out because I thought that was so sweet. I had no
They had no choice. I turned them into the anchor.
yeah, that was really
I told them I was going to turn them into the anchor. That was my plan the entire time.
I had no idea. And I don't think I even really knew the cover art was happening. So it all kind of like, I think you guys handed me paper and you were like, you have to guess who's who. And I feel like I guessed right for everybody. I know I got you because it was the Marcus. I'm pointing at Marcus because it was the thing he draws all the time. I got you. I know I got you. I know I got you.
Pretty sure mine's pretty obvious.
I think then I ended up switching McCole and Charlie, though, is where I got stuck. And then I didn't even realize I was the anchor. And Hazel was like, you're the anchor. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
And in that initial cover art, you were kind of cradling the whole team, and so fitting.
Yeah, I'm going to make this cover art a reference to that.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have us do a whole bunch of cool poses or something. Some JoJo poses.
I wanted us all to be pointing at like anchor point right above us or something like that.
That's cool.
How would
Like
you
disco style?
I don't know. I thought of Marcus just being all shocked like
Well, we could refer back to like when we were coming up with a name and one of you said it's like a heavy metal band. What if we were like rocking out to it, heavy metal band
heck yeah.
style?
Oh, yeah.
Like point.
Well, I'm Lee, and I'm the dog with the spike collar. And I chose a dog because my dog is a long-haired dachshund. And I have my entire life been compared to a dog for a variety of reasons. And then on top of that, I've also been told that I look a lot like my pet dog. His name is Peter Pan. And so I decided to have my character kind of resemble what he looks like, a long-haired dachshund. And then I gave myself the white face because I like doing my makeup like that.
That's cool.
And McCole's not here,
yeah.
so maybe somebody could do McCole's too.
Well, they were a ladybug with a pink face, kind of based off a Hollow Knight-esque style. They are no longer with us on the podcast. They're no longer with us on the podcast.
We miss McCole.
They're safe working at a restaurant currently.
All right, so let's move on to episode 2, which we named Lost in the Scroll. This was like a huge milestone for the show because it was the first time that you guys actually took like a topic and started talking about it. And you were still kind of finding your rhythm on the mic, like when somebody talks, when somebody shouldn't talk, and all of that stuff. That one was about internet addiction and how easily our phones can pull us away from real life. You talked about how algorithms keep us hooked and why digital connections can never replace real relationships. So I'm wondering, since we recorded that episode, have any of you actually tried putting your phones down more to hang out in person? And has anything changed about how you're spending your time?
I have not put my phone down less, but I will say it has definitely rephrased the way that I thought of cell phones. I thought of it as just another way to spend time. Like I could read a book or I could look at my phone, and my phone is pretty cool. So I'm going to do that. But I realized afterwards it's not the healthiest. So I've been going outside a little bit more.
Oh, good.
I've found technology less rewarding, honestly.
Gosh, I won't say. I don't think much has changed. I still try to stay off it if and when I can. Only ever really try to scroll when I'm like having like the designated maybe 30 minutes to an hour's worth max of time a day, and I'm doing it with another person. But even then, like I will note with that, I'm kind of at this point where I will notice where I'll be laying in bed and I'll go, I'm bored, and I'll pick up my phone and my hand will immediately go for like reels. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, and I've been trying to like not do that, but before I can even think, I'm already there in the app. And so one thing that has changed for me was I actually took it out of my games folder. My Instagram, I took it out of my games folder, and I still put it somewhere that was convenient for me to click on so that I can text people when I need to text people. But that way it's not with all of my other stuff. And when my mind immediately goes to click on that, when I'm like, oh, I want to play a game, it's not right there in there. And I actually now have to leave the folder if I want to go to Reels. And now I have to look at the other games that I have that require a little bit more brain activity for me to, do or play them. And I dare I say that might be a little bit more healthier for my, a little bit better for my brain health.
I like to put my phone in Chinese and flip the screen upside down, so it's like completely unusable.
Why?
So it's unusable.
But why? How would you?
No, I'm joking. I don't do that.
I did want to say, so like that, putting that pause in there, Lee, like where you have to pause, that forced pause, sometimes that is like the moment we need to have a completely different response to something. I've done that in a different way. So I took the Facebook app off my phone. So now I have to actually like open my browser on my phone and like type in Facebook. So there's just a few more steps to get there, which will give me that pause where not as much as I'd like, but often I will like start on that, right? And I start going, and then I'm like, oh wait, I don't want to do this right now. And I'll put my phone back in my pocket, and I won't actually get to Facebook.
Exactly.
Like a really powerful way to change behavior is just to be more mindful when you're engaging in the thing. And so I think even like Micah, just knowing, right? Like just thinking about it, just even if we pick up our phone, we still open the app or whatever. If there's a thing in our brain that's like, this isn't fulfilling and it's really not that enjoyable, I'm doing it anyway, but at least now I'm aware that I'm doing something that maybe I don't really fully enjoy. Like that's a huge step towards behavioral change, because it really is hard for humans to change their behavior.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing. And like we're taught about, people tell us like, oh, willpower, right? Like willpower, schmillpower. It's really, and y'all can look this up. I heard it in a podcast somewhere, but like willpower is more like a muscle. It gets fatigued really, really easily. And it's not something that we just have an unlimited reserve of.
Unless you're Green Lantern.
Yes, unless you're Green Lantern, right? But like, so it talks about, so like if you don't want to eat sugar, you have to have the willpower to walk by it in the store, right? But if that sugar is in the cupboard in your house, you're going to eat it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like willpower, it's a temporary thing. So I can't just wake up and be like, I'm going to exercise every single day and just to use my willpower to do that. Or I'm just going to quit smoking based on willpower. I'm sure some people sometimes do that, but in general, we just don't change that way. It's very difficult for humans to change our behavior.
Well, I think one change, speaking of change, that we all would like to see in the community is opportunities for people to make more genuine connections, right? And that starts with looking at how we talk to each other, how we're there for each other. And when we were first developing this podcast, one big thing that we did was we had all of the hosts write a list of people that were in the community that were making that connection with the kids, somebody that was a trusted adult, somebody that they could lean on when times got tough. And what's that statistic that just having one person, what do you remember what it is exactly?
Most folks have heard a little bit about adverse childhood experiences, or we call them ACEs. And statistically, if you've experienced 4 or more of these throughout, before you're 18, you're more likely to, get like a physical or a mental disability, or be impacted. I shouldn't say it that way. I should say be impacted physically or mentally. So like higher rates of likelihood of smoking cigarettes, or like dying from a heart attack or whatever. But what we know as well is what counters that is one caring, connected adult. So in some situations, people might have 10 of those ACEs, but they don't have any of those negative outcomes because throughout their life, they've had this one caring, consistent person. And what's really powerful about it is it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that's with you your whole life. It's someone that just had a tremendous impact on you, because our brain will go back to that person forever. And I've told you all about my bus driver, Angie, right? I'm 41 years old and I still think about her. And she was my bus driver maybe for 2 years, but she was my best friend and just gave me a lot of confidence and support in myself.
Yeah. And I think even listeners at home, they could look back on their childhoods and there was that teacher or coach or
boss. A lot of times it's a boss.
Yeah. Some sort of mentor in their lives that was that person that believed in them, encouraged them. And so that's kind of what makes like episodes 3 through 6 pretty special, is because we took that list and we brought those people onto the podcast and they were our first guests. And so in episode 3, Charlie brought in Dar, and you guys talked about his journey from building a local kids garden all the way to managing this new 5-acre farm. And it was such an inspiring conversation about mentorship and what it really means to plant seeds in our community for the future. Charlie couldn't be with us today, but for the rest of you guys, what was your biggest takeaway from hearing Dar talk?
I mean, there's so much to talk about with Dar. For me, it was really seeing that sort of, because we had not gotten a guest on before Dar. He was the first, right? So seeing that new perspective from someone on our podcast, with his perspectives on experiencing life, experiencing nature, his experience with sort of going from the corporate ladder into more nature-focused spirituality and whatnot, and getting involved in the community. Yeah, Lee?
I'd say my biggest takeaway from the entire episode as a whole was this idea that how serving your community can be so much more fulfilling than anything you do that serves yourself. Because he talks about, coming from this higher place, like where he's really powerful and making a lot of money and, bumping shoulders with people he probably wants to be bumping shoulders with if he wants to make it anywhere in life. And he chose to give that up to come to this little hick town out in the middle of nowhere to hang out with a bunch of kids and garden. Right? And that there is true selflessness, and he's so much happier like that. He's so much happier here with what he's doing in the way that it is.
It was very inspiring to see someone who is currently accomplishing their dreams like that. It was the first time we were talking to anybody, and he was very excited. He brought a whole energy with him into the room.
God, I remember his journal. that he brought with detailed pictures, and they were really nice pictures.
They were really nice pictures. It was amazing, honestly.
Yeah. But he
What
was like,
the journal for? Because I don't remember getting to look at a lot of it because I actually came into the episode
It was-
halfway through. But I just remember seeing like bunches of like blueprints and stuff.
it was all about
His
what was it?
farm.
Yeah, his farm and also some statistics stuff as well. It was a really nice journal. It really well used too. It looked like one of those cartoon journals where it had like a whole bunch of pages sticking out and it was all rustic and covered in dirt. I remember he smelled like farm, you know, like he had dirt in his fingernails and he was like, sorry if I'm a little dirty looking. I was planting seeds earlier. And it was like, that sounds like I was being rude. What I mean is the amount of aura that was coming out of him was freaking radiating, dude. It was so cool.
Yeah, I don't think it sounds rude, Marcus. Like, yeah, you're yeah.
And that it was more like a scrapbook, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because he worked with these kids and they had these like grand ideas of how they could transform this kid's garden that he saved. Everything from those kids in this scrapbook that he treasured.
Yeah.
Well, and if I recall right, it wasn't just the kids' garden. I think it was kind of his life's work. And if I remember right, he just handed it to you guys and he was like, start looking through. What do you notice? And then it might have even been Azel like picked a particular image and was like, tell me about this. And then boom, we were off learning about the kids'
Yeah,
garden.
it was the music note that was the map of his garden, which
The
was
triple clef. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
amazing, honestly. It's not as colorful as the drawing is on an overtop view, but
Yeah, no, I remember him first
looks
telling me
awesome.
about like him, because I was in an adventure camp, years before I joined the podcast, and he was telling me about that, and then to see that years later, him realizing that in an old drawing in a journal compilation. I mean, that's just surreal, right? How cool is that, bitte? Yeah. Anyway, that's my German.
That's just a German
Sie Kohlen
accent.
trinken darf. Yippee!
Can you
Well,
actually speak any German?
Oh, no.
Well, and after that episode, Dar ended up sending us all these pictures. So if any of the listeners want to go onto our Facebook page, you can actually see the top-down picture of his farm with that treble clef in it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I've got to work with Dar before, and he's always had that amazing energy, and I really appreciated the conversation. Like what I took away from it kind of is this idea around being in alignment, having our life in alignment with really what is the most important to us. And it connects to the brain nerd that I am, because I think in a lot of ways we're living in misalignment with how our brains are actually designed to work. And so there's kind of like that double layer of it for me, right? Like as an individual, we have to live in alignment with our purpose or our goals or whatever. But when as a society, we live in misalignment with how our brain operates, it has some pretty negative outcomes for us.
In listening to the raw audio and helping to edit that episode, one thing that really made Dar stand out is he took the time to get to know each and every person. I felt like he made everybody in the room feel so cared for.
I mean, I think that comes with editing. You get a good understanding of the people that we invite on.
No, that's
What's
really
the next
cool.
one, Josh?
Yeah. So episode 4 was with Josh, and we titled that one Hear Me Out. And Lee actually invited Josh on the show, and you guys had this great conversation. It was you and Azel that day.
Yes.
And you talked about what real listening looks like and how caring adults can meet young people right where they are without piling on extra pressure. Lee, how did you meet Josh, and what was it about his approach to listening that made him stand out to you as one of your trusted adults?
Oh gosh, oh gee, oh goodness. The way that I met Josh was actually because I had just basically just graduated high school. I needed to get my FAFSA sorted. But I had absolutely no idea how to do that. And I didn't have any teacher or any adult that I felt like I could go to comfortably and say, hey, could you sit down with me for an hour or two? I really need help getting this done, because I don't understand it. And the ones that probably, would have been willing just didn't understand it themselves. And so I ended up finding myself going to my now boyfriend, who actually was in college at the time. And I was like, hey, you applied for college last year. Yeah. You did this, can you help me out? And he's like, yeah, I did. But, if I'm going to be so honest, I didn't do most of it by myself. If any of it, I was kind of, walked through it like a child by the hand, by this guy named Josh Sleddy. He's been my tutor for like a while. He's helped me with math and he helped me with my FAFSA and things like that. He's really kind, and he described him as always being very comforting and reassuring, because he was the type of guy where as soon as you start to get overwhelmed, he's like, it's all right. We're going to take it at the pace that we need to. We're going to stop. We're going to take a break. Let's take a breath. We're good. We're fine. And I was like, you know what? That's the kind of guy that I need to be around. I understand that some people need firmness, they need sternness, but I'm not very responsive to that because I kind of just feel scared. And so I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it, but only if you go with me. And so I went with him, Havoc, and I met Josh, and he helped me get my FAFSA sorted for that year and the year after. And he told me that he would help me with everything else that I needed help with, my insurance, my food stamps, if I needed help figuring out with like what rent was like and how to do that, I could ask him for help. If he had the ability to, he would. He made a really big impression on me because of how just generous and genuinely selfless he is. So I put him up on the very top of my list along with Miss Pomerleau, who we actually haven't had a chance to get on the podcast. So just know we're coming for you, woman. But yeah,
we're approaching your destination rapidly.
I can imagine her very scared.
So one thing that I noticed about Josh is that he was very complimentary to all of you guys and so supportive and excited to be a part of this.
Oh yeah, he was very excited.
Actually, hold on, if I might interject, I remember actually talking to Josh about being on the podcast during that whole FAFSA fiasco when I was figuring it out with him. And I had been like, hey, I just got this job very recently, and we were thinking about having, guests on the podcast, and I put you at the top of my list, and I was wondering if that was something that you would be interested in. And he literally told me, well, I don't even care if you told me about it like a week before. As long as I'm free, I'll make it work. That sounds so interesting. I'm so excited. And then he was even more excited about it when we went to him and we basically told him that we actually weren't just wanting to like talk about his job. We were wanting to talk about, mental health with him and him as a person.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I've known Josh for probably 7 years. I don't know exactly how long. But he is probably one of the most selfless people I know. And one thing I really appreciate about him is he's pretty open to share his own story and be vulnerable with other people. And I think it really creates a space for connection.
And safety.
Yeah.
Definitely has that air about him. You just feel safe.
Like you can say anything and he won't judge you for it. And I know that because I also have a personal relationship with him. And I've said plenty of things that he could judge me for that I've never felt judged for. So, yeah.
Definitely a good shoulder to cry on.
Yeah.
In episode 5, we had Denise that Azel brought on. That one was called Weathering Together. Denise shared a powerful story about mental health and resilience. Her family's experience navigating the 2011 tsunami that came through and wiped out the Crescent City Harbor. Her talking about that really opened up like a deep discussion about grief, identity, and the courage it takes to check on the people that we love whenever they're having a hard time. Azel, how did you first connect with Denise? And what was it about her that made you feel like she was a trusted adult in your life?
Well, reconnecting with Denise technically, I've known them since I was in elementary school. We came to her at Trillium because we got to use the house, and it was real nice seeing what had happened to her after she retired.
And then did you have her like in the after school program?
Yeah, that was how I met
That's
her.
how you met her, right? What school did you go to?
Pine Grove.
Uh-huh. And so Denise, I don't know if she was managing the whole program at that point, or she might have just been
It was
at
her
Pine
and her
Grove.
daughter, from what I remember. She was like, there was several like teachers or like, not sure what they're called, but people who stand outside and just watch the kids. That did that. Most of it was just playing, honestly.
Yeah, for the after school program. So you met her then as a kid, right? And probably kind of connected with her then, I would guess.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we end up at Trillium. You have no idea she retired from her school district job. We go to Trillium and it's like, oh, Denise is the director of this Trillium Teen Center that's here all of a sudden. And I haven't seen you in however many years.
Yeah. I mean, technically, if I wanted to word it in a more creative way, when I was little, I could see her as a very scary authority figure that just ran everything like a big mafia boss. And now I see her as more of a human that just the child's creative mind plays things in various different ways.
Yeah.
It was very cool catching up with her, and it's been cool driving with her. I need to text her again. If you're listening to this, Denise, please tell me if your car is working. I need to drive. They're really inspirational and motivational.
You know, I think the way that you described her running the after school program actually is like, I don't, what exactly did you say? The mafia boss, right?
Yeah.
Like Denise can get stuff done. She can juggle 20,000 things at one time and make it look completely effortless and do it in a way that's like, this is the business that we're doing right now and we're getting it done. Not like in a mean mafia. Like she's a really fun mafia boss, you know?
Looking back, is there anything else anybody wants to say about the Denise episode that they remember?
She was able to be very strong during such a difficult subject. Because I was personally feeling that pain. And so I can imagine how she was feeling in that moment.
That was the first time we had somebody share such an emotional
piece.
Yeah.
I mean, I was struck by that because we hadn't have had an episode like that until then.
The whole community experienced that tsunami. And I think that added a layer of, I guess, depth to it. Like her story, I think, was many people's story. Maybe not the exact details or whatever, but so many people were touched by that event, you know, and then to hear like a repainting of it that was just so honest and raw. And it was really brave of her and really brave of Charles to, you know, provide permission for all of us to just hear that story and move through, you know, the crisis to the healing with them. So.
And you brought up a couple of really great points that I didn't know previously about how we process grief and how we show up for people in that way. Maybe, could you say that again?
Yeah, just a little recap. So basically, you know, it's hard because humans are empathetic. It's very hard for us to sit in pain with other people for too long a period of time because it's painful, right? So what we tend to do is when somebody has a loss, we all show up in droves to help out. But for the person experiencing the pain, their body and brain are actually kind of protecting them from experiencing it, you know, kind of like shock, but not shock, you know. And then people slowly move away from the person with the loss because it gets more or less too painful for us. And then after about 6 months, that person is kind of left alone to deal with what they're now feeling, all of these emotions that they've been protected from without the same support. And it's all, you know, how our brains work. So it's nobody being mean or whatever, but knowing that for myself has made me change the way that I interact with people around grief. And I make sure, like, because for me personally, because everybody shows up right after a loss, I tend not to. Like, I'll just kind of stay away, and then I start showing up about 3 months after, you know, and that's just because I know what I know. And you know, what's really interesting to me is a lot of cultures have practices around grief that are communal. and are rhythmic. And so maybe every year, everybody comes together and, a great example is like Cinco de Mayo, right? That literally is to celebrate the dead. Or no, it's not Cinco de Mayo. Oh my goodness. La Dia de Muertos.
La Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to find.
I know I mispronounced it.
Can you say it right, Marcus?
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
I was close.
So it's literally a day every year when like everybody comes together to celebrate those that have gone before, right? And like we have Memorial Day, but like
It's kind of gotten away.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the same thing at all, right? Like people are literally putting up pictures of their lost ones and celebrating them. That's not what most people do on Memorial Day.
Most people fight war with the sky on Memorial Day.
All that to say, like having, what I'm trying to give an example of is there are cultures that have rhythmic, repetitive ways that allow people to come together and like kind of cry and grieve and heal. And I think sometimes when we have space for that, like permission to be uncomfortable and permission to be sad and permission to be sad together, then we end up kind of laughing and having fun and celebrating and not feeling so lonely.
And nobody is a professional griever. Mm-mm. Because with every loss, whether it's a job or a person, it's different.
Yeah.
And it's personal to each time and to the person that's experiencing it.
Yeah.
So there's no cookie cutter that you can put to that.
I'm an award-winning crier. I'm the best crier in the world, honestly.
Me too. That does something I didn't say in that episode that I think is really fascinating for listeners around grief. So most people know the grieving cycle is something like shock and denial, anger and blame, bargaining, blah, 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 ends in acceptance. Fascinating. I learned on a different podcast, but that was developed by a nurse that supported people in hospice. The grieving cycle was designed for the dying, not for the living. And so a lot of people in grief, they have this misconception that acceptance is somewhere we land when it literally wasn't designed for people that continue to live. So I love how you say, Kelly, it's different for everybody. There's a different researcher that created the 8 pillars of grieving, which helps people that are alive navigate grief because it is so different for everybody. But I just want to say that because like a lot of people think that we like end in the grieving cycle and acceptance. Mm-hmm. And that's true when you're a terminally ill person, but otherwise it's not true.
Grief doesn't even naturally end in some cases. Some people can just always grieve and some people can just forget and come back to that grief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our final episode. Well, not our final episode, but in this recap.
Oh, more anchor point.
Foremost.
Oh, it better not be. At least not yet, right? So finally, in episode 6, Finding Our Frequency, Marcus invited David to the table, and you guys dove into this great discussion about how art and music helps us connect when words just aren't enough, how rhythm regulates our brains, and how the local arts bring our community together. Marcus, how did you get to know David, and what made him stand out as a trusted adult to you?
I first met David maybe summer of 8th grade year in LRT, which is Lighthouse Repertory Theater. It's the local theater place here. And, he was the main guy directing the music, right? And I just remember thinking about how talented he was, that he could hear notes and play them, right? He had perfect pitch. He knew a note just based off of what it sounded like. He could, I remember there were times where he was, available and just sitting at the piano, and I was also, we were on break, and I would just say something like, A augmented at 11, and then he would just play that, right? Without even thinking about it, right? And I mean, musicians can do that, but like he would just do it like instantly, right? And I just remember that would just blow me away, especially as a little impressionable 8th grader. And then I got to know him more throughout the years of doing theater, and it was just so impressive. And he had just this really nice perspective on life too. Oh my God, and coming from a musician, at least an aspiring musician, as I consider myself. He was so cool. He was so cool.
Very much so.
Very inspiring.
And anyway, he was so cool on the podcast too. Oh my God. Anyway.
He was probably the most interesting. Not that everybody was interesting. I don't think I thought of another thing that whole, was it an hour?
Yeah.
I know an hour doesn't get...
No, I
mean, it was
remember-
an hour of raw...
Of just talking.
Audio. Yeah.
I remember I wrote the run sheet for that, and we didn't use a single question.
Yeah.
We didn't, because we write these run sheets and we have questions that we might ask if things get dry. Never got dry, And especially because I had listened to that episode for 13 hours editing it. I know what he talked about, and it's very interesting,
Dar and David, both D names, very inspiring in how they accomplish their dreams. And that's something that inspires me in my own art, seeing artists themselves being creative and going out and making more artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, David was so much fun to talk to. Everybody was so much fun to talk to. David brought things up for me that I'd never thought about before. And I always really enjoy when my brain just gets so challenged and I can feel it just what does that mean? So he did, everybody did that, but he did a lot of that for me. And a lot of it's because I don't know much about music, I appreciate music, but so, he just is in a field that I don't know a ton about to begin with, but he had a very kind of spiritual element to everything that he was discussing. And then I, in my brain, I'm just connecting it to these other kind of missing chunks of information. He tied some things together for me that I'd never had tied together before.
All right, guys. Well, it was a lot of fun to be on this end of the mic and hang out with all of you today.
This is not your last time. We will have you on.
Okay.
Yes, we will be interviewing you, Kelly. Don't worry.
And I hope I'm just so incredibly proud of the work that you're doing and what you're putting into this community matters so much. You're going to inspire people younger than you to continue this work. And the more that we can get these messages out to our community, I can just see it unfolding in this really beautiful way. I also want to give a huge thank you to all of the guests that we've been able to bring on. You matter a lot to us, and we appreciate all of the support. And people who are listening at home, you're the ones that's going to help this continue, for the future episodes. So thank you to you too. If you haven't had a chance to check out the full episodes, you can find them on your favorite podcast app. So go back and check those out. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can visit resilientdonatl.org. That's resilientdnatl.org. And you'll also probably find out some cool stuff about what we're getting into. Check out our Facebook page, and we always try to keep some behind the scenes stuff, and the kids are getting really creative here lately. So go check that out and just keep showing up for each other, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Au
Anchor
revoir.
point.
Good.
I've been wanting to do that for a while.